What a great opportunity that was to be able to hear directly from Martin Luther King III. We talked some about formal programs already that exist in the county, but I want to talk about some of those barriers and some informal ways around it. Rosby, you were talking about some of those.
Yes, one of my positions is director of our men's ministry at our church, and we have some awesome men that have actually a lot to teach our young boys, but unfortunately, because of some of the barriers to formal mentorship, they're not able to pass, for instance, some of the background checks. But they are great individuals, have a story to tell, they love the kids, and they want to help the kids come up. So I try to tell them that even though you may have a past, your past does not dictate the future. You can still reach to those kids that need your help and be a mentor for those kids, even though you may not be noted as that formal mentor. You may not go through a formal training session. The bottom line is that we have to help our boys. As we talked earlier, one of our main focuses is to save our boys. God made one creature that can become a man, and that's the boy. And unless we save our boys, then we're going to have some real problems down the road.
And we need to find those informal opportunities, because the institutions, those government programs and those formal operations need to be careful. We can't have somebody come back if there's an incident and, you know, then it's all over the paper and all kinds of terrible things.
Well,
but we don't want to lose those
right.
who can be helpful.
And to that point, I agree. I mean, I was exposed to formal mentors, but informal mentorship. And I think that's what we really want to convey. Mentorship is not always formal. You may have, it may not be being able to pass a background check. It just may be you're restricted with your time. So you may not be able to formally go to, you know, the Y or somewhere. But when you get off from work, between the time you get out of your car and you see some young person and you take the time to say hello, how you doing, how's it going? Or on the weekend, you're out in the yard working and you know, get one of the young men to help you out and you give him a couple of bucks. Trust me, you'll have his attention. And the next thing you know, he wants to help you in your yard all the time. But it's an opportunity for you to find out what's going on with him and give him some sense of direction. Because at the end of the day, I think for me, the definition of mentorship is just love. Yep. Sometimes people just need a hug.
Yeah.
To feel someone cares. And it really changes the whole narrative. Yeah.
I think the commissioner's right on. I think what we see a lot of is our children are good kids. And I think we assume sometimes maybe they're mischief in different ways, but in fact, they're really good kids that need that love, like you said, Commissioner. Somebody that just wants to listen to them, somebody that will wink at them and say hello and tell them to raise their chin and to be proud and to just, you know, our theme for the MLK breakfast was stand for something, but to really develop your self-concept, because every time we have listened to the children and convened the teens or the young adults, phenomenal things are coming from them in terms of wisdom. And we need to make sure that we give them that opportunity to do that through informal.
Secretary Walters of the Department of Juvenile Justice, excuse me, had the opportunity to come, and she did a tour.
Right. And
she was kind of sharing some of the things that will come down from the state's perspective, and she spoke about mentorship. And I raised my hand and I made the statement that making sure that the state is forgiving. And making sure that those individuals who have a history, that they have the opportunity to be able to mentor, because they have a story that those guys can learn from. And I believe that by us putting up this barrier, we kind of we don't allow them to tell their story, which is most important. And Sheryl, you're right, as it pertains to what our boys are missing out on. The generation in general, we're missing out on the family values. Yeah. They don't have it. Back in the 80s and 90s, we had TV shows that show good families. We had the Cosby Show. We had Family Matters. But now we got reality shows that that
Are not good for anybody.
No,
Yeah.
the kids are seeing these reality shows to make it seem as if this is how life is. But when life did have a structure, their life did have dinner at the round table with mom and dad. So, but having the mentor to be able to share their story is important.
I wanted to say something about empowering men in particular to do what we're talking about. And we were talking about the difference between formal and informal. One of the things that has become formalized is the term mentor. It's like a foreign term. We went to a conference or a convention and we heard the word mentor, and then we went back home and we said, we want you to be a mentor, and people are saying, well, what is that? And I just think as we reach out through this conversation to men in the community, I think another way of translating mentor is uncle, neighbor, custodian, friend. I mean, a man walked up to me this past weekend and said, we went fishing last week. We caught a lot of fish, probably more than they should have caught. And he said, I want to take some boys fishing next week. Now, this guy feels so good about fishing. He's an artist when it comes to fishing in a boat. He would never be able to sit in a class and do a formal lecture. And so I think we have to free up the term to be able to say, you know, those, Commissioner, when you were talking about people in your life, I mean, it was almost something that came natural to some of the men in your world. It was just a part of doing something with a kid, teaching a boy how to do something, how to make something. But I just think just in freeing up that term, we talk about mentors, we're talking about men who care.
And to your point, my greatest mentor is my grandfather.
Wow.
My grandfather, he never went to college, but he's the wisest man that I know.
Yeah.
And he is
He
my
took the
role
time with
model.
you.
And, you know, I call on him to this day. If I have complicated issues, even with the commission that may require my formal studies, and I went off to college, the best college, University of Florida, go Gators. But I go back to him, and that's the well I draw from, because you know what? It's wrapped with love and understanding, and he breaks things down to me to this day that help me to function when I'm dealing with complicated matters. And I think to your point, as you have stated earlier too, part of it is about exposure. And like you're saying, someone taking these kids fishing, you would be surprised. Some of these kids have never been fishing. I run into kids all the time who've never been to the beach.
Right.
In Fort Lauderdale, South Florida. So a lot
You
of
get away
it
with
is
that because his name's Crunch.
crunch, okay.
There's another, talk about freeing up terms. There's another term I want to free up and get rid of, which is at risk.
Oh
They-
yeah.
Our youth are at promise or at
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah.
There you
They,
go.
and that's something we don't do enough of, is just build them up.
And
Well,
you
sure,
talk about
yeah.
labeling. You know,
Yeah.
we've got to stop labeling our kids. You know, I'm one of those that believe there's no such thing as a bad child.
That's right.
I think that kids exhibit bad behaviors, but they're not a bad kid. And once we start separating the child from the behavior and let them know that they are someone, they are somebody, and we're talking about your behavior as opposed to talking about you, then we can make a huge difference in the lives of these children.
And
Sorry.
no, it's okay. No, and just to piggyback off that, it's just just like when I hear organizations say that we're going to take the guys to the prison or as a field trip to show what they where they gonna want to end up.
Scared
Right. I don't believe in negative reinforcement. I believe that if we want to show boys what they can be, you take them to a office building on the 34th floor and let them see a CEO at work and see them in action.
Yep.
Take them to a commission meeting so they can see somebody at work. Take them to Reverend Crunch's, maybe one of his services, so they can see positive reinforcement. I don't believe in this taking a child to a prison and letting them. That doesn't scare them. These kids, you got kids who walk in the street 3 o'clock in the morning. They don't care anything about no jail cell. so we just need to change the dynamic and how we're doing these things. And you're right, we have to change our language.
One of the things that we've built, oh, I'm sorry, Mickey.
No, just in speaking to the barrier piece, we've come to recognize that, you know, we present a barrier, particularly being bound to the Jessica Lunsford Act around, you know, who can access our students for mentoring or anything. And in looking at the Black Male Success Initiative, we've tried to address that barrier by bringing the initiative, again, to the community within the zone. And we're looking at supporting mentoring, not just within the walls of the school building, but you know, in our rec centers and at the churches and in the community. So as we identify Black males who need mentoring, we're looking for them to be mentored within the school day and outside of the school day, wherever we can get it going. If it's going to be, you know, at the park, if we can, you know, we'll help to support those programs outside as well.
I just want to add a thing. I want to go back to the why. I love the why, and I know MLK III spoke about the why, and civil rights, and Martin Luther King was at the why. And as you were talking, something came back to me. I used to go to the Y as a kid, and the YMCA was there for me. And to this day, my grandma goes to the very same L.A. Lee branch YMCA. So I say that to say we do have some of the blueprint, the infrastructure there. We just need to remember to, you know, put those resources and expand, because if you go to L.A. Lee, you, like I said, you have our seniors there, you have our youth there, so you already have mentorship going on. It may not be formal to say put these, you know, these seniors or, you know, these older folks with these young folks, because everyone knows there's nothing like a grandmother. I mean, grandmas are, you know, top. And so, you know, when we talk about this, and, you know, we have faith-based, we have the Y, we have the school district, we have government, we have some things there. We just may need to go back to that original blueprint.
Right.
What worked. It worked then. It's something we're doing here now. For example, putting those labels and, you know, at risk. If we apply that definition, then we need to have at risk, you know, adults as opposed to just kids. So I think if we go back and we look at it and fine tune and put that, I think we'll be good.
To simplify what the commissioner is saying, he's saying that we've gotten too sophisticated. We have.
Yes,
we need to go back to the basics.
That's right.
The basics worked.
Yeah.
I went to the Boys and Girls Club. We've gotten too sophisticated. Go back to the basics of how things used to be done. He's right.
My thing is, and I am a minister, so Malachi 4:6, I think we need to turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children, the hearts of the children back to the fathers, and that's when we're going to start seeing some real change. So we do need the men to step up. But I love organizations like the Y.
Can I mention something? I think as you were talking about what we need to do, I was thinking one of the things that we need to do, and it's just a fact of our reality, of our community, is that some people need to be empowered. They need to be ennobled to do what they want to do anyway, you know, and a tap on the shoulder says to somebody, now I can go do it. I have the power, I have the authority, I have it all. And I think it's going to call for people like us to actually put out the challenge, to care and so forth and so on. And I have found that that's my best resource. And to be able to tap somebody on the shoulder and say, go do it.
Yeah.
And to tell the good stories.
Right.
Tell good
You know?
stories.
Yeah.
Because there are more good stories.
And to create good stories. You know, we can create stories. I can create wonderful stories. I just did in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I created some wonderful stories with some children. And I think, you know, some people have to be tapped on the shoulders. Others will just go. But the point is, and I appreciate what you're saying, because the point is, someone has to start.
Well, because there's also, I think, been a little bit of let them take care of it. Government will fix it, or the so-and-so will fix it. I don't have to do anything. I paid them to take care of it. We'll send our kids to the school, and the school will fix every problem that every child has about anything, and then we can get mad at you because the school didn't do it. Or we fund the Children's Services Council through our tax dollars. They should take care of every problem that children have. Well, no institution can do it.
Right.
No one can substitute for that parent, uncle, grandparent, friend, reverend who steps up to the plate and says, I see you as a person and I think you can be somebody. Last week, I had the pleasure of doing a mock interview for Harvard for a young girl who is aging out of the foster care system. This young black girl has been through hell, and yet she was sitting before me. She's applied to Harvard, and I was doing an interview with her to get her ready. And, you know, she was embarrassed about all she's accomplished. I'm like, no, you stand there, you tell them, you look them in the eye, and you say, this is what I've done.
Yeah.
Be proud. Make your story that you can reach back for. It doesn't take us to do it for her. She did it. She's done it. She's got it. She's got that fire. But she also has people willing to reach out and help her
Provide
along
her
the
with
way.
encouragement and
Yeah.
motivation.
And you know, Cindy, that was that's what Dr. King professed and died for, was and why we're kind of here today is, you know, how do we as a people work together and make the world a better place and leave a legacy for others. And what I'm excited about is, you know, you put a panel like this together, and I think it gives us an opportunity to say, okay, we need to work together. I mean, it's not about one group or one agency or one church or one school district. It is really about all of us. And I think what the takeaway for us today is to say, come on, what are we going to do? Because sometimes we're a couple blocks away, and I need to see the commissioner over at LA shooting some hoops or mentoring and all of that. But I mean, let's do that, and let's continue the legacy that Dr. King gave us, and said, let's do it. Let's make it happen.
And not just us, but all of those people out there.
Yeah.
Everybody who's watching today needs to step up to the plate, find that child that they can put a hand out to. If they need the support of one of the agencies here, we're here for them.
Yeah.
And consider this the tap on the shoulder, the call to action.
Call to action.
That's it. Well said, Mickey. And for those of you at home, consider this your tap on the shoulder. As we've heard today, while there are institutionalized and ingrained root causes for the disparity, you can see that this community is coming together in a way that's going to be effective. We are tackling them and knocking them down one at a time. We can be successful, and we will be, but it takes all of us, all of the sectors of society represented here today, and most importantly, you, because you have to recognize the importance of the personal commitment that you make every day and that we all make every day to those children in our community. That's how we'll create bridges for our youth towards successful adulthood. I want to thank Representative Jones, Ms. Mickey Pope, Commissioner Bobby DuBose, Reverend James Crunch Melton, Ms. Sheryl Woods, and Rosby Glover for their insights and consistent work towards helping raise all children and youth to their highest potential. They are an inspiration to me, and I hope to all of you. I've been your host, Cindy Ehrenberg-Seltzer, President and CEO of the Children's Services Council of Broward County, where our mission is to empower Broward's children to become responsible, productive adults capable of realizing their full potential, their hopes, and their dreams. For copies of this program or any other episode of Future First, please call the Children's Services Council at 954-377-1000 or visit www.cscbroward.org. Like us on Facebook, and remember to join us next time on Future First, Focus on Broward's Children.
During my 7th grade year, I was coming from the YMCA, and while walking over the overpass, I got jumped.
Just a year ago, walking to school was a challenge for many students at Lauderdale Middle School.
When I was going home from school, there would be fights and people, the children from the school, they would gather around and block off the overpass.
The teens didn't feel safe on the overpass walkway they used to go to and from school and their after-school program on campus run by the Y because of the lack of lighting and security. These shoes, all sad reminders of how bullies would start fights with students, steal their shoes and throw them over the power lines, making some students walk barefoot.
So I went to and talked to people about it, and that's how we make changes over the overpass.
The Y listened and responded, creating the Live Well Lauderhill program, where students could feel comfortable sharing their concerns and brainstorm solutions.
They opened our eyes to a lot of different challenges. We gave them opportunities to be in front of people. We've trained them on how to speak to city leaders and to important community leaders.
Or counselors or mentors at the Y. They asked us how we felt about our community, and we told them what made us uncomfortable, and then we started coming up with solutions. Different children, different students started coming up with solutions and how we could fix it.
The Y hosted a community walk with leaders, legislators, and led by the students. It was an opportunity for them to show and share their experiences firsthand.
These students have had an opportunity to go before a city commission. They've had an opportunity to speak to school board members. They've convened neighborhood groups. They have been able to sit and be a part of the planning of how to improve their community.
From a community walk to city commission meetings, the students used every outlet to bring the community together.
When the issue first came to the commission, I think each of us was equally excited about the probability of us making something of this in terms of trying to resolve a problem that had been in existence for many, many years.
Soon, they started to see changes.
It's much better now because we have lights and the sidewalk is very beautiful.
And now $500,000, thanks to great partnerships and collaborations, have come together to really solve the issues that these teens had getting to and from school. Now that's powerful work.
Powerful work for a project that's only just beginning. And it's all because a group of students were willing to stand for something and inspire change.
We stepped up to make it a difference because we want it to be good for and future generations.
We want to make a difference for them.